This is Heaven 610, WAGG Birmingham. It's time now for Biz Talk, and here's Roy Williams.
Welcome to Biz Talk. I am your host, Roy Williams. I am so excited to have you here joining me today. We are taping in advance, so we will not be taking any phone calls. I am honored to have as today's topic an issue very important to me, and that is education. Joining me in leading a discussion on the topic of the role of the church in public education and nurturing our future leaders is Overseer Shaemun Webster, pastor of the Tower of Prayer in Leeds. Welcome back to the show, Pastor Webster.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Today's show, by the way, is being sponsored by the Tower of Prayer, which is Overseer Webster's church, the place where God is transforming lives, 8429 First Avenue in downtown Leeds. For more information, go to www.thetowerofprayer.org. Today's show is dealing with education, and I am excited to spotlight the Hoover City Schools, and I'm honored to have here as one of our guests Hoover's new superintendent, Dr. Kathy Murphy. Now, as a reporter with the Hoover Sun, I've been covering the Hoover City Schools since Dr. Murphy was hired, and I can tell you, Dr. Murphy, I can feel the excitement that's been breathed into what was already a good system. So welcome back to BizTalk, Dr. Murphy.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
She's going to introduce herself in a minute, but I wanted to introduce our final two guests. And the first guest is someone who I met a couple of weeks ago, Miss Jane Bruce. She has this fall moved over from Hoover Schools, where she was an IT instructor, to become the new IT instructor at the IT Academy that is opening at Spain Park High School. Welcome to BizTalk, Miss Bruce.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And last but not least is our person who I call our shining jewel here on the show today, our future leader spotlight. It's Miss Haley Hickman. She is a rising ninth grader at Spain Park High School, and she happens to be Miss Bruce's daughter. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Future Leader is a segment I do every 2 months, highlighting students who are leaders and not followers in our schools, and those who are on the fast track to success, just like Miss Haley here. Now, I want each of my guests to introduce themselves and, basically tell a little bit about who you are, and then we're gonna get straight into the show. We're gonna start off with my guest co-host, Pastor Webster, and then Dr. Murphy, and finally Miss Bruce and Haley. First, Pastor Webster.
Well, okay. Thank you, Roy, so very much. And good evening to Radio Land. I am Pastor Shaemun Webster of the Tower of Prayer Church in downtown Leeds, Alabama. I count it an honor and a privilege to be with each and every one of you this evening as we discuss the relationship and the partnership between education and the faith-based community. So we're so very excited to have all of our guests here this afternoon. We're going to start also with Dr. Murphy and introducing herself from the Hoover City School System.
Yes, I'm delighted to be the superintendent of Hoover City Schools. Have been in place since June 1, and very excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. As I've said in every forum that I've had, what an awesome place to be, that Hoover's almost tangible, the goodness of Hoover and the success of Hoover. So I'm delighted to be able to be a part of this great school district and to provide some leadership for our school. And so thank you so much. The privilege is mine to join you again, Roy.
Hi, I'm Jane Bruce. I'm the IT instructor at Spain Park High School. I've been the last 4 years at Hoover High School. We have some very successful students in our academy, and they have gone on to win state and national awards. And we are I'm so glad to be able to create at Spain Park what we have been so successful doing at Hoover High School. And thankfully, our superintendents and assistant superintendent, superintendent and assistant superintendent have supported us in building 2 new academies, the Finance and IT Academy.
And I want Ms. Hickman to introduce herself. Now, as I mentioned, youth are what this show is all about, people who are leaders like you. So basically, introduce ourselves to our listeners and tell a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Haley Hickman. I'm a rising ninth grader at Spain Park High School, and I'm just excited to be a part of the Spain Park family and just be involved in everything that they have to offer.
As I mentioned earlier, this segment is called The Role of the Church and the role of education in nurturing our future leaders. As a Christian and a parent, I'm a firm believer that the church and faith plays an important role in nurturing students to be, like Haley, to be our future leaders of society. So I want each of the adults, and Haley, if you want to chime in, you can as well, but I wanted to have you talk a little bit about, your excitement as you go into school year. But I want the adults here, first of all, to give me their thoughts on the topic of the role of the church and education in nurturing students like Haley to be our future leaders. Whoever wants to go first. I guess we start with the pastor in the room. We'll go with the pastor first.
I should have known the ball was getting ready to come my way. There is a Tibetan proverb that says that a child without education is like a bird without wings. And so it is very, very important, and it's very powerful whenever the church, the faith-based community, and I really don't want to kind of be biased and just say that really the faith-based community at large plays a huge role, no matter the denomination, no matter the background. I think that at the religious core of your faith is where your foundation is birthed. And that means that is where you learn respect. That is where you learn to be honest. That is where you learn to be trustworthy. And I believe that at the core value of every student and every home, it comes from the faith-based sector. And for me, of course, I believe that it comes from the church. And at the church is where you learn those core values that make your character commendable and trustworthy and honest and really allows you to stand out. Not only that, but I also believe that the church plays a very, very important role with the continuation of education outside of the 3 o'clock bell. That means that churches should be there ready to sponsor tutoring services, community service opportunities, and really expanding the child, because some children do not, their education is not massaged at home. And so it is the church and the faith-based community's responsibility to do that further massaging, that grooming, that tailoring, that development that really would make our generation stand out even more powerful than it is. What are your thoughts, Dr. Murphy?
Well, obviously, I think that the role of the church is critical in the life of all of our children and our families. Everything that goes on in the family is so critically important, whether that's having children in church or, in my view, unfortunately, if there's the absence of that. Our church just recently put together 500 backpacks for students. And, so I see the role of the church is to support and to undergird, to pray for,
yes,
and to lift our young people up. There are a lot of challenges that our young people face. Haley could probably testify to a lot of that, but a lot of challenges out there for our young people. A lot of opportunities to go down the wrong road and to do the wrong thing. And I think that undergirding of the church and the support of prayer and reaching out to our students with backpack ministries or food ministries or whatever those ministries might be that reach our children and support our children are so critically important. There are those conversations about separation of church and state. So I readily, as the superintendent, acknowledge that, there are places where we just legally are not allowed to tread as it relates to public education and religion. But, nobody can keep me as the superintendent of the school district from walking down that hall praying for every kid I walk by.
That's right.
I don't lose that right nor that liberty just because I happen to be a public school superintendent. So I'm going to be praying for you too, Haley, and Miss Bruce, and for all of us as we get ready to swing our doors wide open tomorrow and invite our children to come in. So I've been known to literally walk down the halls of a school when I was a principal, go in on a Sunday afternoon, maybe before school started on a Monday morning, and literally stop by a teacher's door and call that teacher by name and to pray for that teacher and specifically and to pray for the children that would be in that room. So certainly a huge proponent and supporter of how critical that relationship is for me.
Yes.
And how important it is that we lift our students, our schools up, our teachers up in particular. What a challenge we have as teachers and administrators to try to support and direct the education of our children, and also to support and direct them in the right decision-making in their life.
And Dr. Murphy, that powerful statement that you just made, I really believe, I kind of want to horn in just a little bit before we go to Mrs. Bruce, but I kind of want to just horn in just a little bit on the power of prayer as we know that prayer has been taken out of our schools, but students meet like in first priority before class, and then you still have the Fellowship of Christian Athletes that are still active in our school districts and our school systems. But I also think that it's very, very important that we not only just pray for those students that are coming into our facilities, but that we also intercede for the educators, the administrators, the cafeteria workers, the bus drivers. You know, we just had a prayer service at our church on August the 1st, praying for all of those people, you know, whoever is around our children working in that sector. We want them to be covered because, as you know, every year we hear about a tragedy in a school system, you know, with violence or crime. And so I believe that our best weapon to is not security detectors, but it's really prayer. And teaching our children as well when they go into the classroom that they have that right, as you were saying, that they too can also pray underneath their breath, praying that God protect them, God give them wisdom, God gives them favor. And so prayer is certainly a pillar still in the educational sector.
That's right. And there's nothing in law that says that a principal, a teacher, a child in his or her own seat or in his or her own capacity doesn't have the right to close those eyes or just talk to the Lord in their
That's
heart,
right.
in their spirit. And so no one has to relinquish that right. Where the line tends to get drawn is when that prayer is led by an administrator, a teacher, or a coach. The law is fairly clear there that it should not be generated from the level of the teacher, the coach, the administrator, the superintendent. But certainly no one relinquishes any right he or she has to that relationship.
Amen.
Hi. Well, I have a lot of experience as a parent bringing my 3 daughters up in a Christian home. The greatest leader there ever was Jesus Christ. And he fed thousands. He associated with tax collectors. And he also talked to the woman at the well. Some people that others may think are a little less desirable. And I think that he didn't show any favoritism towards anyone. And he loved all people. And I think that is one of the core things that we as parents should do is love. And we should also, as a teacher, love our students. And I think that those character traits that we develop in ourselves and in our children are great things, great Christian character traits to also instill in our students.
Yes.
Things such as discipline, honesty, love, strong work ethic, grace, respect. Those character traits go a long way when students are put into the real world, and they are able to be successful because they have a foundation of good character traits.
I'd like to suggest that all of those that you mentioned are so particularly important, and respect is the big one that jumps out. You know, our students need to respect themselves first. In the absence of respecting themselves, it's very difficult for me to share respect with someone else. And so that whole piece of self-respect is critical to being other respect, respecting others. So critical skill set that needs to be taught in the home, taught in the church, taught at the schoolhouse. And that is we respect ourselves and we respect our teachers. And that there's a way we present ourselves, and there's a way we talk, and there's a way we share, and there's a way we do not talk, and the way we do not share, and things we do not do. And that's a measure of respect. So thank you for all those that you listed that are so critical for us. And the one that jumps out is just to focus a bit on respect.
That's so true. And Haley, I want you to get in here.
Don't mind if I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So from a student's perspective on the role of the church, I think it's really important for us to be involved in church and to know Jesus, because at this age we're all trying to find out who we are, and we're trying to find our identity in anything we can possibly grasp to. And I think that our future is based upon where we find our identity and who we look up to, and I think we need to find our identity in Christ and none of the things that are just temporary.
Good for you, Holly.
Yes.
Well said.
Yes.
I
Very well
want
said.
everybody to chime in on this topic here. We're starting out the new school year, and I know the importance of starting out the school year the right way. So I want each of y'all to talk about that as we go back to school, as school is started back. Talk about the importance, and I want you as a student to talk about this as well, about of starting out on the right way and having the right mindset and realizing, as we always tell our kids, going to school is, for kids, is the equivalent of us working a job, because how you do now in school will determine the type of job you get. So whoever wants to start up first.
I think I kind of want to pin and pitch in right here about how important it is that the household works with the school district. I just kind of, since we're talking about the relationship between the church and the school, if you wouldn't mind me, let's go back to the New Testament for just a little while. We find here the very first instance where Jesus appears. He is 12 years old, and he's in the synagogue. And the Bible says that he was there sitting, asking questions and listening. The very first thing that Christ is doing when he is noted in the New Testament as a child, he was sitting in the synagogue, asking questions and listening. And I think that's one of the very first important tools that we need to instill in our children, is the example of Christ of listening and asking questions. Not only that, but then there's a huge gap. After that, they snatch Jesus back in the house, and we don't see Jesus again until he's 30 years old. So where's Jesus from the age of 12 to the age of 30? I believe that Jesus was at home. He was learning, technically being homeschooled, if you would allow me to use my imagination. And Jesus was being homeschooled. He was being trained. His character was being built. And I believe what the New Testament is teaching the New Testament church today is that a lot of our training is still coming from our homes, or the lack thereof is a product of what's going on in the home. So there must be a relationship, a partnership, a connection between the church as well as the school. The school can't do it all between 7:30 and 3:30. The home has to do the character building, the development of character and honesty, as we have already discussed. And so the school is there to educate, but at home it is the responsibility to train up the child. And that's what creates the village.
Well, obviously, as superintendent, I would talk about how critically important it is that there is a collaborative relationship between our schools, our classrooms, our teachers, our administrators, and our parents. And I'm always concerned, and I know it's not true of Hoover, but I have seen it in other districts, where we talk about wanting to engage our parents in school, but that becomes more rhetoric than practice. So we say we're about engaging parents and we want parents to be present, but then sometimes when we see that parent coming up the steps and to the door, it's like, oh my goodness, do we really want to spend that time? And I think that is something that as a Hoover school district, that we really should not have just rhetoric about how important the role of the parents are in the lives of their children, but that indeed we demonstrate that, we embrace that. And it's true that some of our children are difficult, and it's also true that some of our parents can be difficult. But we take people where they are, and that regardless of that we're engaging them, and they're bringing to us their most precious, and that is their children. And nobody can blame a parent for being passionate about their child and wanting the very best for their child. And at the end of the day, the school district has the same objective as the parents, and that is we want the very best for that child. And so, that relationship between home and school is so important. What's going on in that home is so important. Setting the stage. I even would go so far as to say what happens at the house in the mornings so significantly impacts the work of the child that day at school. So it's amazing that some of our children do as well as they do, particularly if they've just left home where there was ranting and raving and arguments and confusion and agitation and aggravations. And it just doesn't set the tone for the child to be able to come to school happy and ready to learn, but very unhappy and sometimes struggling to get past and get off your mind all the commotion that happened at home to actually be able to get to school. So I think it's imperative that our parents understand how critical setting the tone in the mornings and in the afternoons when our children get home. We need to have as much peace and calm as we can have in all of our homes, just period. But certainly as it relates to our children, peace and calm and security, expectations and rules and discipline are critically important. And I'll take that as far as to say an expectation for what the afternoon looks like. How much TV time is there? How much running around time is there? How long can the stereo and the boom box and the whatever be on? And when does it go off? And what's the expectation for the work that's going to be done to get ready for school the next day? Whether that's, let's put your clothes out for tomorrow so there's not so much confusion about which shoes and, which belt and which pants. And but that's the role of the parent, to make sure that we present the very best situations that we can in our home so that there is much peace as there can be. And I think that's a major contributor to our children getting up and being ready to go to school to learn and being able to go to bed at night with some peace to go to sleep to get ready for school the next day. Just a critical role of the parent for them to play.
That's the power of planning and structure. It's very, very powerful. And then also I have learned just from 3 years of in the classroom as well, that consistency will create a huge change in the child. And as well as inconsistency will create huge change. But consistency is what you want, so that those expectations, I know that you are still in the classroom and you already know that, okay, well, if that child starts off tomorrow, when they walk into those school doors and you're creating a schedule that you set out tomorrow, those expectations, those guidelines, they know what to expect. They know the repercussions of it. They know the blessings of it. If they follow your guideline, kind of talk to the parents about how you can keep that child enthusiastic, focused, that same zeal on the 90th day of school as it was on the first day of school. How can the home help with that? And then I would love for you to talk about how can the church help the youth ministry stay excited about school?
Well, I wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Murphy said. She was talking about peace, and I think that peace is so important.
It is.
And she talked to Institute, Dr. Murphy did, about hard conversations that we need to have. And she gave a beautiful picture of 6 children pulling on a rope on either end. And playing tug of war is not necessarily the best way to have hard conversations. She gave another picture of everyone pulling on the end. You get so much more power pulling in the same direction. And one of my favorite proverbs is when a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him.
Yes.
And it's so important to be able to find common ground. And with your children, of course, they have to be obedient.
Right in the Lord.
And so do our students have to be obedient. But peace is so important in a child's home and in a classroom. And I appreciate Mr. Gene Grosso for emphasizing to our he is our Spain Park High School principal. He has done a great job encouraging our faculty to make sure that we stay consistent.
That's awesome.
And not to argue with the students, they just need their discipline and move on. And so it seems to be, I haven't started the year yet, but it seems like it's going to be a very peaceful environment.
Amen. And that's what we pray for.
One of the things that happens when teachers choose to engage students in argument is the teacher's always going to lose. Now, you may outsmart that child in some shape, form, or fashion with your comeback, but you lost. Because we're not on the level of having arguments with children.
That's right.
We are those who should be very matter-of-fact about the expectation. But as far as engaging children in confrontation and argument, the teacher will always lose. What generally will happen if we ever get to that point is students are going to side with each other. And so when the teacher begins to argue with the student, generally the peers of the child are going to go to the child's side and the teacher just loses face. It's not who we are, isn't what we should do. And I know we want to hear from Haley, and excuse me, but something that Tommy Bice said yesterday in a meeting that I was in. We had the privilege. Dr. Tommy Bice is the state superintendent, and Dr. Bice was on campus with us yesterday at Simmons Middle School. And we had breakfast with him, a presentation by him. And Dr. Bice said this: I really don't care if the first couple of days of school you teach students content, standards, course of study, pacing guides, or if you even hand them the syllabus. But what I do want you to do is to get to know your students. So if you need to spend a couple of days just allowing those students to say, here's who I am, here's my story, he invites that. I invite that. And it's the old adage that students really don't care what you know until they know that you care about them. And so one thing that I would say to our teachers who have opportunity to listen to us is, I ditto what Dr. Bice said, and that is building that relationship with our students. Those first few days are much more important than me dropping the syllabus in front of you, and certainly more important than me dropping worksheets in front of you.
Wow.
And just getting to know, building relationships. You know, one of those things that we talk about in educational research is there are 3 critical pieces to what we do, and that is that we should have rigor about our studies, and that we should have higher expectations, not less. That's what rigor is, set the bar high. And that there ought to be some relevance to what we're teaching our students. How does this fit? How will I ever use this? This Algebra 1 means what to me later? But making that a real-world opportunity. How might you apply this? What does this really mean? What's the relevance? And the other critical piece that we can never underestimate is what Dr. Bice talked about, and that's the relationship piece, that we must build relationships with our students. It's amazing what a student's willing to do when you've built that relationship with that child. You can get much further down the road much faster if you hit pause at the beginning of the year and create that relationship that says, hey, you're important, and I'm listening to you, and who are you, and what's your story? And I hope our teachers will do that.
Well, listen, it's been a fascinating conversation so far, but can you believe we've already been on the air 28 minutes? We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to want to talk about a couple things. One of them is I'm going to want Dr. Murphy to talk about this powerful presentation she made to the Hoover teachers the other day, and I want reaction from our teacher who was there. And then I'm going to want all of us, and especially Haley, to talk about the importance of being a leader, not a follower, and how we can build and nurture our leaders, our students, to be the leaders of society. So we're taking a break, and we'll be back after this. Back to BizTalk. Before the break, I was talking about Dr. Murphy to tell a little bit about, her passionate, very, very passionate speech to the school, the students, the instructors and the staff at Hoover. And then I'm going to want all of us to talk a little bit about the importance of being a leader, not a follower. But first, Dr. Murphy, tell about what you challenged the instructors and the staff of the Hoover school system the other day.
Well, I was just delighted with our Teacher Institute because of the reception in that room, the enthusiasm in that room, the excitement that I felt as I stood there to share my presentation. The purpose of Teacher Institute is to bring the family together and for us to not lose focus that it's not just our school in the Hoover City Schools. You know, sometimes we just get to our school and we forget how big and how many children and how many teachers. And so, you know, having those 1,200 or so folks in that auditorium reminded us of the largeness, the diversity of our school district. And so I think it's important to have family reunion once a year and to have employee teacher institute to pull us together. You know, the purpose of that was also to allow our personnel to see the new superintendent. Hey, here's the face, and here's the belief system. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's my processing. But to make that fun and non-threatening, and to make that as entertaining as possible, No one wants to have to sit for 40 minutes or an hour and listen to anybody really chatter on and on and on. And so we tried to have a good mix of sharing thoughts about what I believe as your superintendent, with using some video and using some music and using some other venues to try to help us make those points. You know, one of the biggest things that I would say is that Hoover City Schools is really a very good school district. Mm-hmm. But we talked about Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. Mm-hmm. It's not enough to be a very good school district if you can be a very great school district.
That's right.
And we also talked about the fact that sometimes it's that one extra degree that's the difference between goodness and greatness. And the example was this. Water boils at 211 degrees, but 211 degrees, water is not boiling. You will never get steam at 211 degrees. You've got to have one more degree to get to 212. And at 212 degrees, water boils, and something particularly unique happens, and that is you can create steam. And when you create steam, you can move a locomotive and just all of the other chemical aspects of that one extra degree and what that means. And so the challenge to our personnel was this: hey, let's be one extra degree. Let's go from being very good to being very great. And so I thought the picture of 212 degrees and creating that steam was very powerful. You know, we talked about pushing each other. Showed a really great video, which is entitled The Push. And it's about an eagle mother who is doing a little bit of wrestling with herself about what she knows eventually she has to do. Because what she eventually has to do is she has to push her eaglets out of the nest. And what she has to ask herself is, will there be sufficient wind underneath those wings for my babies to fly? Or will this be the one time it doesn't work the way it's supposed to? But the most profound piece of that is the conversation that she's having with herself of what is the purpose of being an eagle if you never soar?
That's right.
So what's the purpose of us being Hoover City Schools if we're not going to soar? And our children deserve that. Our students deserve that commitment from us to be 212 degrees and not 211.
Wow.
They deserve, as we deserve to do with each other. I invited the entire audience to push me. I'm accountable to the school district. I'm accountable to every parent in the school district. I'm not just accountable to 5 members of the board. I'm accountable to all of the community of Hoover. And I invite that push. There are times I need to be pushed. There'll be times I need to be the pusher. And we have to be willing to accept and to give that. We talked about the need to have courageous conversations. You know, it's tough sometimes to be honest. It's easier to look the other way sometimes than to take the challenge of saying, hey, we need to talk about what we saw. You know, you go by a classroom and children are disengaged and teachers on the phone, I have a problem. You know, this classroom time is about these students and their learning. It's not about me sitting on my telephone or sitting behind my desk disengaged from children. It's about us being on hands, proactive, engaged, project-based, student-centered instruction. And so, you know, we talked about sometimes we're going to have some tough and courageous conversations. Overall, I felt so very good about our Teacher Institute, not again because Kathy Murphy was the presenter, but because I really felt like we said some things that needed to be said and that we had some powerful moments with each other. I believe we had some fun. We put some music in there.
Yeah, she had Michael Jackson, Jackson 5, and she even had Happy.
Well, and the spin from the Michael Jackson piece was the song ABC 123. No focus on Michael Jackson, but to focus on ABC 123. And we said that the A of that was A game, every day, bring it.
Wow.
The B of that was we need to have bumblebee ignorance. Because the bumblebee aerodynamically is not designed to fly. Squatty little body, short wingspan, aerodynamically is not designed to fly. The bumblebee doesn't understand that. So what does it do? It flies. So we need to have a little bumblebee ignorance and stop talking about what we can't do and just get out there and fly anyway.
That's
the
great.
C was courage. We need to have courage to get it right, to get out of our comfort zone, to get out of the box, be innovative and creative. The one was one student at a time, one day at a time, one lesson at a time, one challenge at a time. The two was together we can get this done. And the three is that there are three things that will happen. Our students will be much more successful. Our school district won't be just near the top, they'll be the top. And the third is that our teachers will be more successful and they'll be happier. And then we brought the Pharrell song in, Pharrell Williams, Happy. We played that song, and I hope no offense was taken, but there was just a little bit of excitement and a little breakout of dance to
and that's
to
healthy.
Happy.
And that's
I hope
healthy.
the church will forgive us if that was offensive.
No, that's not offensive.
Well, she said something that you have preached about, and I want you to talk about the eagle, because you preached about that before. And then I want you to tell me, as a teacher, what it was like.
Yes, it's very, very important that we have a perspective of the eagle. And I'm sure that as the superintendent and as a student and as a teacher, and then here I am as a pastor, we're all working together. We can't have a chicken perspective when God has created us to be an eagle. Chickens, all they do is run around in their same little pen, and they're dirty and they fluff things up. But eagles, they soar, as you just said. They soar, and they also have vision way beyond what a chicken might be able to see. And so whenever God has created students as yourself and superintendents as yourself and teachers as yourself to be an eagle, you're uncomfortable around other species. You're uncomfortable around things that don't allow you to fly as high as God wants you to be. And so I'm sure as a student that has been something that you've had to deal with and challenge, where you're in a circle and you really want to be everything that God has put in you to be, and you just have to soar sometimes. You have to leave the chicken coop and get there in the atmosphere, in that surrounding, in that environment that fosters the gift and the purpose that God put on the inside of us. And so the biggest thing about being an eagle is having vision. An eagle can see over a mile down the road, and that is a long way of vision. And so whenever you have that eagle eye of vision, you have to understand that you can also make eagle-type plans. That means you can prepare better. You can make yourself more ready for what's coming down the road. Chickens, they don't know when anything is coming. It just flops on them. And so, but I'm very, very excited for you, Dr. Murphy. I'm just so excited. Your enthusiasm, your passion, your zeal is very, very apparent, that this is not just a job, but this is an assignment from God for you. And I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you. I've shared this in some forums. There was once upon a time for me that I felt like God was calling me into the ministry.
I can tell.
Foreign missions, of all things.
Wow.
And I believe I am that missionary. Not because that I stand up and preach, as you do, Reverend, and I have great respect for that, because I am in my ministry.
You are.
And missionaries aren't just people who stand and deliver God's word. Missionaries are people such as superintendents who try to get it right for children.
That's right.
I don't feel like I missed my calling. I feel like I got exactly where he wanted me to be.
Yes.
Even though at a young age I thought, wow, maybe I need to go do foreign missions somewhere. But sometimes it feels like foreign missions.
Oh, trust me, I know.
All due respect, sometimes it feels like foreign missions. But thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I wanted Haley and Jane to get into this too, because especially Haley, I want your thoughts as a ninth grader. The importance of being a leader, not a follower, especially when you're at that age where kids can be so impressionable. And I want the adults to chime in on this: the importance of being a leader, not a follower.
Okay, I definitely believe that it's important to be a leader, not a follower, because when you are a leader, you can actually make a difference. You can actually, if you see something that you think needs to be changed, you shouldn't just sit there and think of all the things that should happen. I think you should go up and actually do them. And to do that, you have to start with looking at the qualities of a leader, and some of them are good character, honesty. You have to be able to rely on a leader. They can't show favor to some people. They have to be accountable for what they're doing. They also have to be outgoing. People have to want to follow them. And so I think that if you need to if you see something that you need to be done, then you should do it.
And the fact of the matter is, you're not a leader if nobody's behind you following, right?
That's right.
So
That's
you,
right.
you can consider yourself in a leadership position, but if you glance behind you and there's nobody there, you're not leading anybody, you're just walking alone. And so I think it's so important for our young people, and I've often said this even at teacher institutes. I did not say it this time, but you know, they're with all due respect, I say this. There are really three options for us as a school district, as school personnel. And the three options are this, you know, either come walk beside me and let's all lead together, because this isn't the Kathy Murphy show. So come stand beside me and walk with me and let's go together. Or if you really don't want to be out front and the point guy, then at least step behind us and follow us, and we'll get to the vision and the mission. And otherwise, here's where I say, all due respect, get out of the way.
That's right.
You know, take yourself out of the way. If you don't want to come stand beside us and walk with us and help lead and, you know, help us find the right paths, then at least step behind us and allow others of us to lead the pack. But if you can't follow nor stand beside us, then you're in the wrong business, and we just need you to respectfully sit by the curb and just clap for us when we come by.
That's right. That's right. And you know what, Dr. Murphy, that principle and that perspective works in every organization.
That's right.
In every sector, even the church. You know, if you're not going to lead with us, at least get behind us and clap, support, cheer it on, because there are some who are great assets behind the scenes.
That's right.
They make the show happen.
Talent.
Yes. And so we just have to really analyze who is a liability and who is an asset.
Yeah, and I think our great visual, and thank you for mentioning that, Jane, was that where we're pulling against each other. It was a visual of a tug of war where we talked about this just doesn't work. It doesn't work when we get on opposite sides of the rope and pull against each other. But it is amazing what happens when we get on the same side of the rope, and how we can progress ourselves and our school district. But trumping every bit of that is what we can accomplish for children.
Amen.
I wanted to bring up something that I really, when I heard Haley speaking, it's obvious you got great parenting. And I wanted you as a parent to talk about.
Thank you.
I know you're proud of your daughter, but unfortunately, you as a teacher, you deal with, and you as a principal, you used to be a teacher and a principal and now superintendent. You
Yes.
probably have, my wife and I are the type of people that very active in our schools. I was one of the only males that's on the PTA at my school and all, but we constantly are calling. Sometimes teacher maybe didn't tire. Well, now I'll take it back. They're never tired. They love it when parents like us are involved. But talk about the role of parents and you as a pastor too, and people moving from being a follower to a leader.
Well, we have, my experience lies at Hoover High School, so I can't wait till I get some experience at Spain Park and their parents. But we have had a lot of parents that have they come in and they just help. You know, if we need a parent to go on a field trip, they come in and they help supervise with us. We have parents that bring their students to tutor after school so that we can help make their student more successful. And I don't know the exact study, but I do know that studies have shown that a school system that has more involved parents tend to be more successful and have higher test scores. So I welcome parents in my classroom, and I absolutely love it when I have business professionals in the IT field or in any business field come share with our students, because I'm a teacher. I used to be in industry, but I'm no longer in industry. So I love it when people that give their full-time attention to IT will come and share with our students, because I can't give them that perspective as maybe a parent could. And so we have had some parents at Spain Park step up and say that they will do that. They will let us have field trips to their places of business, and so that we can have some on-site learning, and we can shadow some of those professionals so that they can learn more and learn when they are in high school, maybe what avenue or career path that they're wanting to take.
Yes.
So that they can, take the shortcut through college instead of bouncing around from major to major to major,
That's right.
you know, they can kind of at least eliminate some things in high school that maybe they know that they don't want to do, or get a direction. I have plenty of students at Hoover High School that go into computer science and other computer-related fields,
Yes.
and they just find their passion early, and it's
That's
beautiful
right.
to see.
And I think that's very, very important that the church plays a role so that our youth can know that they have a purpose. God did not just allow you to just fall out the sky into your mom's womb and then wham at St. Vincent's Hospital. You know, God created every single human being intentionally, and he packed our spirit with purpose, power, and potential. And it's up to the parents, it's up to the church, it is up to the school systems that we foster and that we cultivate those gifts, those talents, those skills, to let them know you're not just here to get likes on Instagram. You have to make an impression and an impact in society, not just on social media. And I think that so many people, I didn't mean to go down this road, but I think that so many of our younger generation, even in my generation, if we have 5,000 friends on Facebook and we have 1,000 likes on Instagram in a day, that is deemed as successful. And so we have to also allow our youth to know that social media is a great, great tool that will allow you to get into special arenas. But if your gift, God says that I'll make your gift to make room for you and bring you before great men. And so if there's no character, you won't stay in that great room long. If there is no stability, if there's no consistency, accountability, being responsible, if you don't know those basic foundations, if your purpose has not been groomed, your dream has not been realized, your purpose has not had that proper training and proper education, you will not be in that great room long. It's character, it's education, it's prayer that'll keep you in the great room a long time.
I totally agree. Last night I was reading about David and Goliath.
Yes.
And it is such a beautiful story of a young boy.
Yes.
I mean, when I was reading it, I pictured a high school student, you know,
Yes.
one of my students. He'd been out there leaving no sheep behind, and he, you know, has been fighting for that one sheep, like we are
Yes.
supposed to fight for that one student, you know, motivate the unmotivated. And he goes and there's a problem with Goliath, and he just decides, hey, I can do this. You know, he picked up the torch. You know, most people thought, he can't do this. He's just a young person. They told him to put on all this armor, and he put it on, and he's like, this is holding me back. This is not how I have learned to do the thing that I do. And so he ended up taking it off, and one swift rock knocked the giant out. And it was just a beautiful picture of a young adult using their tools and their talent
Yes.
to make a huge difference.
Yes. For an entire nation.
He had bumblebee ignorance. He didn't realize that he was wrong size and not big enough to make this happen, and so he did it. Yeah.
He did.
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
That's what we want to empower our students with. You know,
That's
we
right.
want to empower them. Teacher Institute, the transferability of what I said to our teachers. There's a huge transferability to that to our students now.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to convince our students they ought to bring their A game every day.
That's right.
We need to convince our students that you need to have bumblebee ignorance and quit telling me what you can't do, and
what
learn all
can
you
you do?
can and show me what you
That's
can
right.
do. You know, our children need to have courage. Haley, you have to have some courage. There are a lot of things out there to tempt you and to get you on the wrong road and off track. And, you know, it takes courage to take a position and to take a stand. And when everybody else is partying, for you to go home and study to get yourself ready for the next level. That's tough stuff.
Courage. That's right.
So I'm hoping that the things I shared and said, and I think it's true that our teachers are looking for that transferability. I can't tell you how many have reached out to me and said, hey, can I have a copy of your PowerPoint? Hey, would you share that slide with me? I wanted to, you know, share it with my students. Hey, do you mind if we pick up that video and we show it the first day of school and let our students know why we're going to push them?
Yes.
So I really think the transferability caught fire. And
That's
it really
good.
wasn't just about me sharing with teachers at Teacher Institute. It's about them picking that up and taking
applying
that
it.
and applying that and
That's right.
transferring it out to our students. Because everything I said at Teacher Institute to encourage and motivate and focus our teachers can all be lifted and carried out there to that
That's
classroom
right.
to do the same for our students.
That's right. It's supposed to create synergy. It's synergy. is so powerful. And I think that if there is a triangle effect of that synergy, if it's coming from central office and it's bouncing back to the actual school in that classroom, and then it goes home, everybody is working together and not against each other. And then at the center of all of that is the church. And so, the church is there to undergird and to cover in prayer and support. And by telling the congregations, when there is a PTA meeting, don't just say, oh, that's a good thing. Show up. Go and make your presence known. So I just think it's going to be a phenomenal year for the Hoover City School System. And I pray for every other school system that's listening as well can take notes this year and be great as well.
There's a super book that I would just mention and did not even talk about this at Teacher Institute. Very quick read, but very powerful little book. And it's called Take the Stairs. The author of that is Roy, R-O-R-Y, Vaden, V-A-D-E-N. And just chock full of just powerful thoughts about how we as human beings want to find the easy way to get an A, or the easy way to get through college, or the easy way to make the football team, or we're all looking to get on the elevator because that's quick and easy, or we're looking, maybe if I can't get the elevator, I'll get on the escalator because that doesn't require much energy. And his entire book and focus is take the stairs. There's no easy way to success other than hard work, dedication, commitment. That's true of me as a superintendent. It's true of every teacher and every person in our school district. It's true of every child. There are no easy ways to get successful. You find people who try to get this get rich quick scheme.
Yes.
They're no, hard work, dedication, make a commitment to your career. But just a neat thought, which is take the stairs. And all of us have to be willing this year to take the stairs. There are no elevators. There are no escalators. We're going to have to take the stairs every day.
Right.
It's tough work, but hey, we're made out of some pretty tough stuff. So we're going to be fine. We're going to be successful.
That's awesome. We got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to let everyone, can you believe it? It's been that long. But I want everybody to make some closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up.
Haley, you want to go for us?
I also agreed with your point on that, giving it your all and not just half doing things. I think that whatever you do, you should give your all, because, what's the point of being here if you're not going to give it all? And I agree with Mr. Webster, too, on the idea of having a purpose. Like, we all have a purpose in this earth, and we need to carry that out. We need to get grounded in the church and find out what our purpose is and carry that out.
That's right.
I am so excited for this school year. I can hardly wait. I've always wanted to be at the same school with my daughter, and this year I have been blessed. And I think that sometimes there, two things with being a leader. Leaders have to be willing, and they also have to have skills. So I believe that it is my charge to teach students how to be a leader and how to develop the skills of leadership. And I will continue to allow the church to strengthen our family.
That's right.
And learn some of those valuable leadership skills that are important in our world today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I have so many favorites as it relates to Bible stories. I love David and Goliath and so many of the other scriptures. But in Isaiah, the commitment that the plans that God has for us,
that's right,
are to prosper us and to bring us success.
That's right.
And so as a superintendent, I claim that for myself. I claim the fact that there's a commitment that what God has for me is to prosper me and to bring success to me. Not so much as an individual student, but the commitment that you make to other people to make this organization called Hoover City Schools successful. And so for me and my thoughts as we get ready to swing those doors wide open this week is that God has a plan for Hoover City Schools, and that is to prosper our children, prosper our teachers, bring us success, and, being a faith-based woman, I claim all that for the school district.
Amen. Amen. And I speak blessings and favor and prosperity and wisdom and great success over Hoover City Schools as you all go back to school on tomorrow. And every student and parent and teacher administrator that's listening to Biz Talk with Roy Williams, we appreciate you for tuning in this evening. And we also pray blessings on this school year, that we will have great, great success as Joshua did. Everywhere his feet trod, the Lord had blessed him.
Well, hard to believe it. It's been 55 minutes and we got to get ready to go. But I would love to, again, thanks my co-host, Pastor
Thank you.
Shaemun Webster, whose church, the Tower of Prayer, 8429 First Avenue, leads with the sponsor of today's show. I would like to thank again Dr. Kathy Murphy, the superintendent of Hoover City Schools. I really enjoyed covering you as a reporter for the last 3 months.
Thank you.
And finally, last but not least, I would love to thank again Ms. Jane Bruce, the IT instructor with new IT instructor at Spain Park High School, and her daughter, Haley Hickman. Fascinating conversation. And Dr. Murphy, if we'll work out the details later, but I've invited Jane and the new Finance Academy person on here. We're going to set a date for October or November. I would love you might be to join them when they come on. We'll try to work out the details that work in your schedule.
Great. I look forward to it.
Well, thank y'all again for joining Biz Talk, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and a great, great school year here at not only Hoover City Schools, but every school district that is in our listening audience area. Have a great weekend, everybody.